Welcome everybody. In the last class we had studied about the vapor compression refrigeration cycle. We had studied the ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle in the last class, but in this class we will study about the actual vapor compression refrigeration cycle. The actual vapor compression refrigeration cycle differs from the ideal cycle in certain aspects, and we will study those aspects in today's class. First and foremost, in the ideal cycle, the refrigerant leaves the evaporator and enters the compressor as saturated vapor. As you can see, the point used to be on the black line. At point 1 is not on the black line in the actual case. But in practice, however, it may not be possible to control the state of the refrigerant so precisely. That means it may not be exactly a saturated vapor. So therefore what we do is, it is easier to design the system so that the refrigerant is slightly superheated as it is not harmful at all. So what we do, we will slightly superheat it. Since we cannot control the quality so much, we will make sure that it is slightly superheated so that everything is evaporated, right? So that compressor will have no wet steam or no wet mixture. Okay, that is how the actual and the ideal cycle would differ. And the second point, in the compression process, the ideal cycle is reversible, right? In the ideal cycle, compression process is reversible and adiabatic, but in the actual compression process, it involves many more frictional effects. So therefore entropy and other heat transfer processes will come into picture. So therefore what we do in actual cases, depending upon the effects which dominate, even more desirable isentropic compression process can be designed. Therefore, generally in ideal case, refrigerant is assumed to leave the condenser as saturated liquid as the compressor exit pressure. But what happens, even in the condenser also, in actual case there is some pressure drop. So that is why you cannot expect 0.4 to be at 0.5 in the actual case. So what happens, there is certain amount of pressure drop even in the case of condenser. That is why the refrigerant will be as little bit subcooled in case of the condenser exit. So therefore what happens, it has to absorb very less amount of heat. So that is why what happens, we will always keep, in actual design we will always keep the compressor and the condenser and the compressor and condenser as very as close as possible, so that that pressure drop is very less. Understood? So that is how the actual design will vary. Now the refrigerant is subcooled in order to nullify this effect before it enters the throttling valve. So that, because what we want, the state that we want our refrigerant should be, it should be having less enthalpy when it enters the evaporator, so that it can absorb maximum amount of heat. So that is why we, even if it comes into picture, we will subcool it also. It is not that much of a cost. So we will subcool the refrigerant and then we will let it enter the evaporator. That is how, in these three aspects, that is obviously we already know these are the different aspects of how generally an ideal cycle and an actual cycle would differ because of the irreversibility factors. But here the other factor is about the compression process and its handling, because of the uncertainty about the state of the vapor. So generally we superheat it slightly. Okay, so that is how an actual vapor compression refrigeration cycle works. Then coming to the different analysis of the components involved in it. So here, as you can see, all these are steady flow devices. Okay, we had studied them in the BTD also, so we will analyze them. So first, coming to the compressor. So in compressor what happens, applying the SFE, we know the total heat interaction in the compressor is 0 obviously. So that is why any change in the enthalpy will be equal to the work interaction. So it will be work input or power input that we need to give the compressor will be mass flow rate into change in enthalpy. So that is the compressor. Then coming to the condenser. In the condenser, since it is a device where work done will be zero, there will be purely heat interaction, then any change in enthalpy will be as same as the heat interaction. So here the heat rejected per unit kg of refrigerant will be change in enthalpy H2 minus H3 into mass flow rate. Okay. Similarly, in the evaporator is that device where work done interaction will be zero. So therefore any change in enthalpy will be equal to the heat interaction. So the amount of heat removed, that is the amount of cooling effect, is mass flow rate into H1 minus H4, change in enthalpy across the evaporator. So now I told you evaporator itself can be called as a refrigerator because that is the device which is providing refrigerating effect. So you can calculate the refrigerating effect in terms of refrigeration as mass flow rate into change in enthalpy across the evaporator into 3600 divided by 14,000. Okay, so that is the ton of refrigeration in terms of tons. That is how you calculate the capacity of a refrigerator. Okay, then at last the expansion valve, wherein in the expansion valve enthalpy remains same ideally, even though in actual cases it may not be same, but it is negligible. So here enthalpy does not get dropped. Okay, so this is the analysis of the all the four devices concerned with the